Hello and welcome to the I Can Do podcast with Benjamin Lee. We're here to talk about tips and strategies to have an I Can Do mindset. Life is what you put into it. Get the most you can. Here's your host, Benjamin Lee.
Day 17 of 300, my Ultraspeaking Project, 300 episodes. One of the benefits of this challenge is learning how to speak up. For me, learning how to speak up, I think I do that pretty well already, but it now has given me even more confidence, motivation to do so. Something as small as seeing somebody in our neighborhood recently and just having the courage to stop and ask and make sure everything is okay. And really to see what's going on. You know, sometimes doing something as small as that, talking to a stranger, creating a conversation. We went to a symphony last week and just started talking to the people next to me. Being able to do that is something that a lot of people actually have a hard time doing. So practicing, feeling turbulence, going through these reps is something that's really good. So it doesn't matter how long you've been speaking, continuing to craft or to work on your craft, to feel the anticipation, the unknown, and to lean forward, to lean into it, that is always an amazing feeling. So the Ultraspeaking app will give me my topic for today. If I could live anywhere, where would it be? Well, ladies and gentlemen, where we live, it certainly matters a great deal. Now, I will say this, that most people, I was listening to the Colin Cowherd podcast. He was one of my favorite sports podcasts. He often talks about how about half of America never move from where they're born. So think about that for a second. Half of Americans will stay in the same place their entire lives. That is, on one hand, maybe a good thing. There's consistency, there's steadfastness, if you want to describe it like that. But on the other hand, I think there's also a lot of fear. There's fear of the unknown. When I look back at my life over the past 20 years, I have lived in a lot of different places. I can think of 1, 2, 3 different states in the past 20, 25 years. Each of those moves have been really productive, scary, intimidating. There's also been a lot of the unknown. I believe where I live right now, it certainly is a blessing. I've actually been talking about this. My family and I, we've been talking about how long do we want to live in the neighborhood that we're currently in. I don't want to disclose the exact location where we live. Maybe it would be beneficial to move to another place. One of the things I have thought a lot about is if I could live anywhere, Arizona is a nice, interesting place for a couple of reasons. Number one, I had the opportunity to visit Arizona back in 2020, Prescott, Arizona. Got to ride a horse for the very first time. That was awesome. Got to look at the atmosphere, look at the surroundings for a few days. It's a beautiful place. When I think about where I live right now in Texas, the weather is always interesting. I have no idea what's going to happen. When we lived in Southeast Texas, you had the risk of hurricane, which eventually we got one, or we had the tropical storm. And that was a sign, or at least the beginning of me thinking about it's time to start moving on or start thinking about going somewhere else. Where we currently live, there is a lot of weather. The winds are high. We got our roof replaced last year because of a hailstorm. We were in our bathtub just a couple of weeks ago due to a potential tornado. That is not necessarily exciting for me. One of the places I have thought about moving to has been Arizona. I don't think you have to worry about the time change. You have sunlight most of the year. While it does get really, really hot, I'm willing to take that. In fact, I like the heat. I can remember when we lived in Southeast Texas, I loved on a Christmas morning going out in a t-shirt and shorts and going for a run where it was in the 60s or even the 70s. I have no problem leaving winter behind. In fact, I grew up in Illinois, and I can remember years ago when we were young, we went through what's called an ice storm. The power went out. We had to use candles. We were living in a apartment. There was a lot of uncertainty. There's ice everywhere. There was no school. That wasn't enjoyable for me at all. Another place we moved to, that first year, we had about the first snowfall, I think, was like 16 inches. I'm thinking, what is going on here? I don't miss the snow whatsoever. So wherever I may live one day, I see a lot of sun, cool air, but not too cold, and really not experiencing all four seasons, but being able to get outside on a regular basis, get plenty of vitamin D, and really enjoy myself. I also envision where I live to be spacious, outdoorsy, room to assist my mom, room to increase some of the hobbies that I have. I see a house with stairs in it. I see a house with a big backyard with privacy, with trees around it. I see a house where I can have my sauna and a steam room, whether that's on the porch or somewhere in the house. I see a house that's designed to motivate and inspire me and others who live in it. You know what else I see? I see a library of books with one of those ladders that just has the wheels on them that moves across the room where you can go up on the ladder and get those books at a higher level. That's what I see. Wherever I live next, Lord willing, I'd love to get that. In fact, I can see it because I was at a house a couple of months ago when I was speaking near Houston, and this house was fantastic. It had one of those ladders. It was a nice long bookshelf. It even had a closet, much like the closet in the Chronicles of Narnia. When you walked in it, it was a closet, but then the door opened up and it walked right into the drive or into the garage. It was unbelievable. Now I can live there and I can see myself with a room like that. A place where I can read, a place where I can have other people over. That'd be a great place to record a podcast, by the way. Surrounded by books, having guests maybe at the house for the show. You see, we need to think more about where we are going to live. We need to think about this intentionally. There are some times where we don't have a lot of power or control. When I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. And so cost and rent played a big factor. In fact, now with the economy, with all the tariffs that are going on with the president and with other nations now, it's hard just to find a rental place that a person can afford, much less a house. But we need to think about where we do want to live for a couple of reasons. One, schools. Two, safety. Three, fun. Four, access to airports. Five, a neighborhood that's going to inspire and help you, and vice versa. It actually takes a lot of forethought to really think about where we're going to live. One of the mistakes that I've made when we first moved, when I was still working for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, we bought a house in a weekend. That was a mistake because we did not circle a block or two or three or a 1 mile radius. We did not fully understand what was around us. We didn't do our due diligence in the neighborhood, in the HOA, and that created some challenges along the way. The house next to us eventually got broken into. Behind us, there was just a lot of problems where people were coming through the woods, where they were breaking into homes. So it does require a lot of thinking about where we want to live. It's not just about the 2,000 square feet or the 5,000 square feet or the 10,000 square feet or the particular state, because now states are changing all the time with taxes. with global warming. That's a real thing. That's changing where places are. You go to New Orleans. New Orleans is sinking and getting lower every single day. I definitely don't want to live there. No offense. But you have to think about all these things. There has to be some real intentionality about where we're going to live. And so if I'm saying anything, I want you to think about, where are you living? Is it really where you want to live? I know this last house that we bought, it fit our budget. It takes about 30 minutes to where my office is. And so now I'm thinking much more about the next place we or I want to live, what it will cost, how far it is from other places, and the bigger picture as a whole. What about you? Where do you want to live? When we think about where we want to live, it all begins with where we currently are in our minds. Focus on that. Everything else will change. Thank you. All right, day 17 in the books, 9-minute impromptu talk, preparing for my TEDx talk, whenever that may be, however that may be. I got no idea. But what I do know, always stay ready. Talk to you tomorrow.